Good morning and welcome to the short story writing workshop. I see a couple people here. You all will get credit for attending. Please try to stay the whole time. I'm not going to talk for a whole hour. I don't think I could, but I'm going to spend this time talking about how to create a short start and possibly even finish a short story, following the guidelines that I've laid out and using the narrative construction elements that we've already worked with. So that will be my primary goal for today, and we'll get through it. If you have questions, please write it in the chat box or raise a hand and I will know to look for it. Otherwise, I'm just going to share my screen and you will see what I see. Very good. So I have pulled up here the narrative construction elements. This is the example that I created in class a couple weeks ago with some tinkering with the neighbors who fight aliens. I still need to do this a little bit. I figured I'll do this real quick today to help us kind of understand what the expectations are moving forward in the story. And I want to go over the prompt that we are going to focus on how we create characters and how we incorporate the theme. That's been our focus this whole semester. So that is what I want to see how well you can do. We're using Of Mice and Men and The House on Mango Street as examples, and we're trying to use characterization, dialogue, description, theme, maybe some foreshadowing. We will see how to do that. Write narratives to develop real or imagined experiences or events using effective technique, well-chosen details, and well-structured event sequences. Engage and orient the reader by setting out a problem, situation, or observation, establishing one or more multiple points of view, and introducing a narrator and or characters. Create a smooth progression of experiences or events. And our final standard, use narrative techniques such as dialogue, pacing, description, and reflection, multiple plot lines to develop experiences, events, and or characters. So there's a lot to unpack with these three standards, all within the same writing standard for narrative writing. There's 10.3, 10.3a, 10.3b. There's a couple others that I chose not to include. The ones that I've boldened are the ones that we're really trying to focus on the details, the sequence of events, the problem, situation, or observation, the point of view, the narrator, and the characters, dialogue, description, reflection. So with Of Mice and Men, we have a third-person narrator that kind of describes what everyone is doing. In The House on Mango Street, we do have a narrator from the point of view of Esperanza. And so that is one of the choices that you get to make in this story, is trying to figure out which one of your characters is going to be the narrator and which one is going to be, or are you going to have a third person narrator? To review my own narrative construction, I have Blaze, Michelangelo, Sveltina, and Robertissimo. Fearless, radical glasses, built like a fighter, okay. Michelangelo, quiet, shut in, skinny, pale. Sveltina, brutish, harsh, weightlifting champion. So I got built like a fighter, weightlifting champion, tall and skinny. This is probably after my father-in-law, Robert. So how do they change? Let's say Blaze becomes more understanding and aware of their attitude. Michelangelo, in the course of the story, becomes more brave. Sveltina in the course, in the theme of neighborhood, she gets really good at barbecuing. Okay, that's just kind of off the top of my dome, but we can figure out how to incorporate that into the story. I already have a couple ideas. And Robertissimo becomes less arrogant. So by doing this, I've created a destination for all of my characters, that I have where they start off, I have the sequence of events, and I have how they end up. And it is my purpose is to use my narrative to tell these characters how to get from here to here through the course of this series. That aliens try to wipe out Savannah, neighbors don't get along, climax, they fight, neighbors learn to work together, resolution, they become friends, they have barbecues every day. Hey, look at that, barbecues every day. That's going to be led by Sveltina. Oh gosh, a total accident, really. I totally forgot this was even here. So my idea is then to have Sveltina use, how does she get good at barbecuing in the course of fighting aliens? Because she barbecues some aliens. Maybe she gets a flamethrower or something. Is that too serious? No, don't think so. So I have this, and I'm going to be coming back to this a lot in the course of this writing. You see the minimum is 750 words, and the trick is to keep this short and sweet, because some students have mentioned they can get thousands of words. And you could easily write thousands and thousands of words on your short story, but we need to keep in mind the singular focus of characterization and theme, and trying to use as few words as possible to say what we mean. And that's always the goal. We're trying to be concise, we're trying to be precise, and we're trying to get our message across without unnecessary language. I'm going to have to pause the recording so that I can get a cough drop, but I can't watch. Very good. And we go Zoom share. So I need to discover how I want to narrate my story. I'm going to do Michelangelo as the quiet shut-in. How do we get the idea across that these neighbors don't like each other from Michelangelo's perspective? They are, no, let's start with, look at them. Always, nope, outside of this. Michelangelo hearing. Who is the arrogant one? Say, not Robertissimo. Let's say Blaise parks on the wrong side. Blaise has no consideration for his neighbors. And doesn't even know how foolish he looks. Notice I'm using dialogue correctly with the exclamation mark. and the first name said appearing on the front windows with commas. Make sure that all looks good. Yeah. They have never gotten along. No, I guess I'm already third person, aren't I? I guess I'm going third person then. They've never gotten along. Michelangelo. I guess it's Michelangelo and Blaze. And this is the creative part, is that I get to alter the lengths of my sentences to kind of create a fun rhythm. So this is going to be up to you as the writer. They've never gotten along ever since they moved. Ever since who moved in? Ever since Blaze moved in 3 years ago. Also, two other people live in this block. And here I'm going to introduce the rest of my characters, Sveltina and Robertissimo. Sveltina, the weightlifter who lives above Angelo, always drops her heavy weight on the ground. On the floor, disrupting to be heard by Angelo, since his ceiling. And then where does Robertissimo come in? He's the skinny artist across the street. That's please. Very good. So in the space of 2 paragraphs and or Control-Shift-C, 119 words, I've created the backdrop for these characters. I'm going to have to change Robertissimo to a sensitive artist to an arrogant artist. But that's okay, because it's the story that matters. And I used this bit of dialogue from Michelangelo to explain their conflict. I have Michelangelo's conflict with Sveltina, the weightlifter who lives above him, always dropping her weights on his ceiling, and Robertissimo, the arrogant artist across the street who never invites anyone to their parties. I don't waste a lot of time going into unnecessary dialogue or getting into any other kind of extraordinary details. 750 words minimum, so I'm trying to be quick about it. So with these, I need to find a bridge to get Sveltina into getting into barbecuing. Classes, I don't know where. So we have introduced our characters. One afternoon, Sveltina is in a shared backyard of hers and Michelangelo's. And Michelangelo takes out the trash. Michelangelo is taking out the trash. Sveltina says, remember to indent. Ooh. Hello, neighbor. day for self-improvement. Well, I see you are taking. Bam! And now I have Sveltina with a little bit of foreshadowing about burning things. It doesn't take up space. Notice that she is brutish and harsh, so a lot of exclamation marks, a lot of kind of outrageous things. Angela looks down at his trash and considers her proposal. Yes, the ozone layer, yes. So here we have a pretty good, if I do say so myself, dialogue going back and forth between Sveltina and Michelangelo. But I don't want to get too far into it without moving the story along, because again, the story is not about burning trash. All of a sudden, to use the oft-used phrase, all of a sudden, no. A terrible meteor came down and the sun was blacked out. Electrical wires popped around the city and sirens immediately. Ooh. They rushed up to the front street to see what was happening. And there were, how do you say a group of aliens? Is it a flock of aliens? A murder of aliens? A crowd of aliens? Aliens. Remember, the idea for the short story is not to write the greatest short story ever written or to write the shortest short story ever written, but to focus on characters and theme. So I've already got Sveltina being characterized, I have Michelangelo characterized. And so the fact that I just have aliens showing up in the middle of the road without much lead in isn't a concern of mine, because that's not what we're trying to accomplish here. So you could have pages and pages and pages of news reports of the slow infiltration of aliens in the city, but I'm choosing to skip all that and get right to the aliens. So please don't take too much time building up the plot, because remember, we're trying to be effective. We're using our details very selectively, and we're trying to structure our event sequences so that the pacing is clipping along. We don't want to spend too much time on detail. We got to shuffle that dirt. So we have Blaze and I'm just going to, Robert, I'm tired of these long names. Blaze and Robert can be seen across the street looking in disbelief. The aliens toppling cars and ransacking houses as they get closer and closer to their stretch of the block. Blaze says, need to fight now. Michelangelo here's this. It says, with what? Your backwards car. Let's take that off. And for variety, cut that out. So your backwards car. Michelangelo says, okay. Waves looks. Don't you call him a nerd. Feltina says in his defense, we need to work together. At this moment, then what does, we haven't heard from Robert yet. Robert, what does Robert, the arrogant, tall, skinny artist, bring to the table against the fight on Aliens? What does Robert bring? Robert maybe brings oil paintings, scissors. Does he draw the aliens and scare them away? It's a bit of outlawed brainstorming. I'm trying to figure out how Robert, at this moment, Robert tries to run back inside. I'm a clever person. People, parties. This is when Blaze grabs him by the collar and tells him to get, what does Blaze have? Some tools out of his truck. It's a bit ambiguous here. Tells him to get some tools out of his truck. I'm not using dialogue here. What does he grab out of his truck? But things to make a, get some tool. Blaze grabs him by the collar. I guess I'll have to use dialogue here. Grab the tools out of my truck. Please, let's use that period. I'm going back and I'm editing as I go to make it make sense as my thoughts come together. So I encourage everyone to make edits and revisions as you go because it just is best. Or you can write it all out and then make edits and revisions afterwards, but that's not how I roll. And I'm afraid that if you save it for after you're writing, you may not catch all of the editing that needs to happen. So I'm a big fan of editing as I go. It slows the process down word count wise, but it makes my writing a little more accurate and a little more grammatically correct. So Blaze grabs him by the collar. Grab the tools out of my truck, he says, and don't forget the propane. Bam, now we get some, and Robert gets tools. Oh, okay, so he's these tools. tools. He says, my latest art project was a post-industrialist critique on the urbanization and decay of mechanical. I'm trying to come up with something very arrogant and dumb. My latest art project was a post-industrial critique of the urbanization and decay of mechanical engineering, mechanical industry, mechanical mechanics throughout the late 19th century. Then Blaze says, do you even hear yourself? Disgust. Stop trying to sound like the smartest person in the room and get the darn tools already. Okay, so they're working together. Blaze and Robert are working together. Sveltina is going to be the one with the flamethrower. And what is Sveltina is going to be the one with the flamethrower. And what's Michelangelo doing? Michelangelo is going to come up with the plan. What's Michelangelo's backstory? He's just a quiet, shut-in pale. So he's going to say something like, we'll need to corral them into one area. Blaze says, so I'm going to have Blaze direct them into the backyard because that is a setting I've already established. And Sveltina is going to do the flamethrowering. And that will be the end of my play. So I'm coming up on a half hour now. So I'm going to pause it here. Let's say, Blaze, area, Blaze says. If it's the end of the sentence spoken out loud, use a comma, Blaze says, and then put the period out here. Let's bring that into my backyard. So here I'm going to start the outline for how the rest of the story is going to go. They are going to work. Let's be more specific. Blaze comes up with corral plan. Robert creates flamethrower. Sveltina and no, who's the nerd? Michelangelo. I keep getting them confused. Sorry. Michelangelo. So that means Michelangelo. Sveltina and Blaze deal with aliens. Sveltina roasts them. They celebrate and become friends. Sveltina develops barbecuing habit. But Robert hates barbecue. Shows anyway, and Robert invites neighbors to parties. They hate arrogant art people parties, but again, shows up anyway. So with this, I mean, in half an hour, I was able to write Control-Shift-C for the word count, 440 words. So I bet with another 307, I could get 750 words and knock out the rest of this. This part is going to be important for a number of reasons. As the conclusion, as the reflection is where my theme comes up, that they don't have to like each other, but they should work together, so that they don't like, Robert doesn't like barbecues, and they don't like arrogant people parties, but they still show up for one another. So this is the reflection. This is I've said dialogue. I've talked about pacing. I've set out the problem, observation. I've talked about how to choose details. Are there any questions, comments, concerns from the live audience about how you want to focus on your stories? Anybody? Okay, so it's 33 minutes in. Thanks for watching this far. If you are watching through my YouTube video, my secret code is going to be what's my secret code? My birthday month, which is July. So if you're watching this, hit me up in the It's Learning chat with my birthday month, and that way I'll know that you watched this video. Okay, without any comments or concerns from those live, I'm going to log off. Thanks everyone for watching, and I will see you later. Bye.